Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I'm Brother Lance Shabazz, and we're continuing with our documentary on Shabazz I Am, the Lance Shabazz story. I am doing this because I feel it is very necessary, and I feel that it's my responsibility for my 6 decades of being on this planet to leave some sort of legacy of just who Brother Lance Shabazz is. I am a brother who Allah has blessed to be around the movers and the shakers in the Nation of Islam. And though I grew up in the 60s, I was able to witness some of the historical figures who made up the Nation of Islam. And I'm speaking from the Assistant Supreme Captain to the brothers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to the family of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to some of the ministers, the prominent ministers, the well-known ministers in the Nation of Islam. I was a part of all of that, brothers and sisters, as a young boy. Didn't even know Malcolm X, but I helped to rebuild a building that was torn down after he was murdered. I am a brother who held front door posts at 102 West 116th Street. I am a brother who did security for Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson when his failed bid for the Democratic nomination to be president in 1984. I am a brother who was around Minister Louis Farrakhan, became a minister under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's leadership, but Minister Farrakhan's direction. I worked with the former East Coast Regional Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's National Representative, Minister Linwood X. I have just been a part of so much history. When you hear of the Black Holocaust, I worked with Brother Eric Muhammad with the Black Holocaust Conference. I've worked with so many individuals. I was a member of CROW, the Coalition for the Remembrance of Elijah. So my connection is with Munir Muhammad. My connection is with Brother Eric Muhammad. My connection is with Minister Louis Farrakhan. I sat in the audience, interviewed Brother Royales, pardon me. They call him Allah in person. But I got to meet and shake his hand and also interview him. I was in, I knew Brother Minister Jeremiah Shabazz, the one who put Philadelphia on the map. All of these individuals, I got to sit, eat with them, visit their homes. And brothers and sisters, I'm just telling you, that's who Lance Shabazz is. I'm not just someone who just loves the history and just loves talking Islam. I am a brother who cry out that what went wrong? What happened? We were building a nation inside of a nation. I really believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the messenger of Almighty God. I believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was setting us up to do something for ourselves. I believe the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is God's last messenger, and the program that he had given to you and I was sufficient enough to get us out of the hellish condition that we found ourselves in, being poor, being black, being despised, and being black in white America. So where else but a place that was called Black Bottom in Detroit? Where else would this Nation of Islam be birthed from? It came from the bottomless pit of hell, and yet it was a paradise the Honorable Elijah Muhammad built for his followers. Those of us who fell into drugs, those of us who was just criminals, those of us who didn't like a Negro, just wanted to cut, shoot, and maim our own. We were just taught a whole lot of foolishness, falling into the hands of a Caucasian people who didn't love us, who just accepted us to be their slaves, to be their tools, to be their fools, brothers and sisters. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I will forever, as long as breath is in this body, will always honor and respect the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Some say, is he really honorable? Are you out of your damn mind? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the most honorable, because here's a man that suffered for 44 years, night and day at the hands of the black man, who constantly stressed him out, who constantly worried him, who constantly bothered him, who constantly came to him like little babies. Dear Holy Apostle, I'm having problems. But dear Holy Apostle, how can you help me? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was there not only to give advice to his poor followers, but those who were not Muslims, who would write the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There were others who came to him for counsel. Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson didn't join the Nation of Islam, but he conferred with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There were others who came and sifted and stole from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and put their own. The Black Panther Party stemmed from the Nation of Islam. There are so many organizations that stemmed out of the Nation of Islam. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said on August the 28th, 1967, he said, every one of my followers are free to do what they want after their teaching has come to them. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us instructions. And there's so much that I was told, brothers and sisters, by major ministers, by major officials, by major laborers who are in the Nation of Islam, that what went on prior to 1975. I was there, but I was oblivious to that. I was just enjoying being around the brotherhood, being around the sisterhood in the Nation of Islam. So I didn't see all of the corruption. I didn't see all of the mismanagement. I didn't see any of that going on, brothers and sisters. We were told to take the fish, the whiting H&G, at the time it was 59 cents a pound, and to sell the fish. They said all that you didn't sell, you had to eat. So we took fish and we went out and we sold. We got fish customers. I printed up a menu. Someone had, out of Corona, had put a fish menu, and we put it together, and I had my customers in my ledger, and I would go and visit Miss Taylor. I would go and visit others and drop off the fish on a weekly and consistent basis while we had the fish program going in the Nation of Islam. I was a young student, 16 years of age when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed, but you would know it. This young man was out there doing men's work, because men makes men, brothers and sisters. I was around Muslims who wanted to do something for self, and so they taught me to do something for self. I was a co-owner at 16 of Shabazz Steak and Take, Shabazz Fish and Steak, Shabazz Bakery and Dairy. I got into business with some brothers, and all of a sudden, brothers and sisters, I believed that everything was going right. I believed that our time did indeed come. But all of a sudden, on February the 25th, 1975, I heard the radio broadcaster said out of Chicago, Elijah Muhammad, 77, had passed away in Chicago Mercy Hospital. I don't know about you, but I didn't believe it. I called Muhammad's Temple of Islam number 7. That was the Mother Temple at 102 West 116th Street. And the brother name, I believe it was Brother Richard. I told him, did you hear what these devils are saying that Elijah Muhammad, the messenger, has passed? And he basically told me, be careful when someone unrighteous bring you news. And so I knew right away where he was going with that. And I said, yes, you're right. But I also put on I went and got a little small cassette to record the news when it recycled again. And I was fortunate enough to record the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as it was told on radio station Super 16 WWRL 1600 on your AM dial. Brothers and sisters, I learned that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did pass. The next day was Savior's Day. I was in New York. We had a closed circuit at 369th Street Armory. See, I didn't get to go to Chicago to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I would stay at Muhammad's Temple of Islam number 7B and hold security around Savior's Day because I was young. And I didn't have the funds to go, and I couldn't travel by myself. But I always assumed that at one point in my life that I would be a great helper to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I just knew it from birth. That's all I wanted to do, was to help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to reach the 30 million or more of our people who was lost, who didn't have a knowledge of self. I wanted to be one of those who was an example for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I didn't want to be a bum. I didn't want to be a junkie. I didn't want to just have a whole lot of women. I wanted to be a Muslim who followed the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to the best of my ability. Now, I did some things that was unbecoming of a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But brothers and sisters, to me that was minuscule because my heart was right. I never robbed from the Nation of Islam. I never stole from the Nation of Islam. I never wanted anything from the Nation of Islam but to give. And all I wanted to do was be one who sacrificed and gave to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is the honest to goodness truth. So whatever foolishness that I did outside of the Nation of Islam, I didn't want it to come back on the Nation of Islam. I was a young child growing up, but though I was around men, but when I got away from men, sometimes I did things that was unbecoming, conduct unbecoming of a righteous Muslim. But brothers and sisters, I wanted to talk to you today They say when the word is given. This is a book that was put together by Brother Louis Lomax. And Louis Lomax, he was the author of the book, The Negro Revolt. He was the one who convinced Malcolm X to come and do that Newsbeat interview with Mike Wallace that would run all week and then become a production called The Hate that Hate produced, as it aired in July of 1959. But Louis Lomax, in reading the book, When the Word is Given, again, I went over this book as I have decided to do my life story. I said, let me look at some of these things. So I read C. Eric Lincoln's book again, The Black Muslims in America. I read the When the Word is Given. I've just been reading some material because I want to tell my life story, but I also have to do some fact checks in, because I can speak extemporaneously without notes, but at the same time, sometimes when I speak rapidly, I make some errors. And these errors are not that I don't know the information, it's just that my heart, sometimes when you start to speak, you know, you say things and I just let it flow. And sometimes I catch it during editing, and sometimes I just say, you know what, just let it go. I don't want to have such a polished production that you think that, oh boy, look how he set it up. Look how he did that. No, I want to tell the truth. And then, as they say, shame those who are other than the truth. So brothers and sisters, you see the book here. This is about the rock, Abdul Rahman Muhammad. He was the rock of the South. He accepted the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was out west in California, came back through the South. He asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for that position in Atlanta when the minister who would leave the Atlanta area, I believe it was Hewlin Shah. So I was blessed to interview Abdul Rahman, the minister of Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 15. And I got to talk to him. I was one who, when I learned that his daughter, Karen, had passed, I didn't call other folks. I called Brother Minister Abdul Rahman myself. And I had a conversation with him. I gave him my condolences. He said he had to find out himself. He says he's learning some things about his daughter. He said, but I got to find this out myself. Now, there are some who say that, Brother Lance, during your moving on July the 4th of 2011, you exposed Minister Rahman's daughter as being a wife of Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. Brothers and sisters, I apologize if I caused any harm to the family, but I just wanted to tell you the truth. And some say that I have a vendetta, that I just have an axe to grind with Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm going to be honest with you, brothers and sisters. There's certain things that I question. Minister Farrakhan, for years while I was coming up, said he couldn't add a cubic inch to his height. He told us so many times that the Honorable, he wasn't worthy even to lace the shoes of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He had put my uncle out, who had at one time had a relationship. My uncle had the barbershop at 1533 Straight Path Road. So many Muslims, Islam was established in Long Island coming out of that barbershop. There was another one down the street on Booker, near Booker, on Straight Path Road. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings was growing. I used to go to wine dance as a little boy, and I used to take great pride in clicking on the barber pole, turning it on so anybody that was traveling down Straight Path could see that the barbershop was open. And though there was D's next door to real estate, there was Larry Discount, there was Benson Burgers, it was the cleaners my Aunt Julia worked at. It was down the street, there was Rudy Body and Fender. I remember all of these things as a little boy in wine dance, but my Uncle George Foyex, Batim Salim, my great uncle, he got into a relationship with the beautician. He had a beautician in the back called Style Right, and where Sister Gertrude. I love Sister Gertrude. She was always treated me nice. She was the beautician. But my uncle, who was married to my Aunt Julia, he had got into a relationship that resulted in Tremont Walker, my cousin. He came out of that. Minister Farrakhan gave my uncle time out for adultery. You know, and I took all of that for you to say I have an axe to grind with Minister Farrakhan. I just saw that others was put out of the nation for fornication. Others were put out the nation for adultery. And here, brothers and sisters, Minister Farrakhan was our brother. He wasn't our father. Minister Farrakhan was the shepherd over the flock. But he was not to be one that we worship. He was just a helper of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, placed in a position there at 102 West 116th Street to administer on the national position, but also to those local 18 satellite temples, mother temples and satellite temples combined. Minister Farrakhan did a tremendous job. But brothers and sisters, when he began to rebuild the Nation of Islam, he said that in order for us to be successful, he was reinstituting the restrictive laws. The restrictive laws where we had different classes. You were placed in different classes depending on your disciplinary grievances that was heard. Minister Farrakhan said that he would administer that. I remember his son Lewis, who had passed. He called a meeting and put his son out, said he was not welcome.
I have a son that don't believe. I've gone along with the boy for this past 6 years. Somehow or another, he doesn't love his father. I detect hatred in him for his father. The Holy Quran teaches you and me, or really it's talking to Muhammad, and when it's talking to Muhammad, it's talking to you and me. Among your wives and your children, there's an enemy for you, so be aware of them. The messenger, in an article that he wrote in 1971, said, I have hypocrites in my family, perhaps you have them in yours. How can we go home if we tolerate unclean things, unclean acts that we are doing, and unclean people that we hang out with? Yes, sir. So to make a long story short, I banished my son from my house, from the temple. I don't speak to him. I will not give him a drink of water if his tongue was lapping the ground in the heat of the hot summer. I will not buy soup to bury him if he drops dead. I turned him into the hand of Allah. I know he's going to be chastised. If he comes through it, he'll be all right. But if he don't, that's between him and the God. I didn't come in the world with no twin, and I'm not going out with none. My son is the same as any hypocrite or enemy. I can hate him and love him. I love him, but I cannot love his hypocrisy, so I leave him until he returns to Allah and submit on his knees. But until that time, I'm through with him. And you will not find a people who love Allah and believe in Allah in the last day who will love those who oppose Allah and his messenger. Yes, sir. Though they be your near of kin, though they be your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your husband, or your wife. Now if a man move out his own son, then I'm moving on you next. I start first in my own house. I'm moving out ministers.
Minister Abdul Rahman Muhammad was living a polygamous life when he came to help Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan called all of these old laborers. Many of you don't know it. He called John Muhammad. He called the messenger's brother in. He called Emmanuel Muhammad. He called Minister Bashir Muhammad. He called all of them. They all came around the minister. He brought them in and he asked them to help him. Abbas Rasul, you all don't know this history, but this is the truth. Minister Bayshi said, why are you saying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive? I can't walk with you with that. Minister Jeremiah didn't walk with him with that. They all said that they all agreed that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teachings had to be uplifted and returned to its former glory, as I would say. But they did not agree that Minister Farrakhan was the one to totally do it. And I believe some of them came around figuring that, oh, we're putting the band back together, huh? Many of them thought, oh, yes, we could set it up again. We can get what we were getting before. But Minister Farrakhan held a tight range. So the supreme captain eventually, who we had in the Nation of Islam, Tehran, was dismissed. There were others who would leave the Nation of Islam, and brothers and sisters, but Abdul Rahman was living a polygamous life. He was told to get, when Sister Mildred, his wife, went to Minister Farrakhan and said that she would help, but he had to get Rahman's wife, his second wife, who was a woman a sister who was in Las Vegas, who had real estate, who was doing her thing. But Sister Mildred said you had to get rid of her. So Abdul Rahman, though he had a son, Ali, and I'm not getting all into his personal business, but I just want you to understand why when you say I have an axe to grind with Minister Farrakhan, I don't have an axe to grind with him. But brothers and sisters, if the messenger told us to look at him, watch him. Captain Yusuf Shah told me, don't listen to what a man says, watch what he does. Or he says, as you're listening to him, watch what he does. It's not what he say, but it's what he do. I didn't understand it at the time, but I always watched individuals. I watched how they came out of the penitentiary, how they were coming and accepting the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I remember saying to myself one time, we got a place full of criminals. They're all coming out of prison because we would stand up. Tajuddin is here. Dwayne, let's stand up and give them a round of applause. This one came home from prison. This one came home from the penitentiary. And we would just rejoice. I was around some of these brothers and they told me some of the lifestyles that they were living. I said, wow. But brothers and sisters, I'm not a self-righteous man. I'm a brother who loves Islam, and as every one of us say, we've been greatly unjust to ourselves, and we do confess our faults. I'm a brother who confessed in my faults before the world, because if Allah can accept me in my ragged condition, then who the hell are you? If Allah say, brothers and sisters, that this man, Lance Shabazz, the Lance Shabazz story, Shabazz I Am, born on November the 4th. That November the 4th is so interesting, brothers and sisters. Didn't know Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a minister when I was a baby in the mosque, but I had no recollection of him. I knew, I overheard the family talking and that he was a hypocrite, but many of them had some soft feelings for Malcolm. Malcolm brought my grandmother in. Malcolm brought my father in. Malcolm brought my aunts in. Brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, there had a special feeling my Uncle Henry shared with me, and I may play it, that how Malcolm was such a special individual. He said he was happy to be alive, or he said he's lucky to be alive with some of the things that Malcolm had them to do. Brothers and sisters, these are not just dramatic confessions. These are truth. And whether you accept it or reject it, I'm going to give you the truth regardless to whom or what. So when the word was given, Muslims lined up. The word was that there is no God but Allah, who appeared in the person of Master W.D. Farad. When the word was given, the Muslim fell in ranks. They came to Muhammad. The children came. The parents came. The sisters came. The brothers came. Oh, brothers and sisters, this nation of Islam began to grow and swell and swell and swell. But I was telling you that my birthday, November the 4th, that's the 11th month, the 4th day. That's the 114 surahs in the Holy Quran. Brothers and sisters, I'm not a master of the Holy Quran. I've read it many times. But our brothers and sisters, they said, seek understanding. And I'm saying to you again, that November the 4th is very, very interesting. Malcolm X's mother was born on November the 4th. Barack Obama, on my 50th birthday, was elected to be the president, the first black president that we know of in the United States of America. There's a reason that all of these things occurred. I didn't get my name for 10 days. I got my name on November the 14th, though I was born on November the 4th. Again, these are all signs, whether you want to believe it or not. I was put here, placed here, raised here to be the Nation of Islam. I'm not saying this that for you to follow me. I don't have any followers. After I complete this story, you may never see or hear from me again, brothers and sisters. But it's my responsibility to speak what I believe the truth, and I will speak the truth regardless to whatever comes my direction, because it is time, brothers and sisters. I've been silent for nearly 10 years, 11 years, except for when someone asked me to come out and do something. I was hesitant. I told others, I said, no, I don't want to be a part of this. Brother Ali, Rahman's son, asked me, could he interview me? He was working on a project and he wanted me to tell a story. I said, I don't want to do interview, brother. I didn't want to. So Culture Freedom got me to do one. Imam Ali, Alfred got me to do one over the years. Chief Red Deer dragged me back into the studio to do something. I helped Sister Layla with a project on Africa Bimbada, and we did an interview. But for the most part, I kept my mouth silent. I didn't want to talk any of this stuff because I had bitterness. I know that, and in order for truth to flow through you, you have to get rid of the bitterness. But I had bitterness toward Wallace D. Muhammad. Though he passed in September of 2008, I still had bitterness for him. Though in August, just a few weeks prior to that, Jabba, Herbert Muhammad, I learned so much about Herbert and Jabba Muhammad. All my brothers and sisters, there's so much that went on that I kept my mouth silent. But brothers and sisters, things I would never say. I had not an interview, but I met with 4 brothers in Brooklyn. Very powerful former followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They would not let me record it, but they said that they're going to tell me the real history. Some of the things they said, brothers and sisters, since I don't have it on tape, I don't really want to speak on it. But they told and shared with me some of the things, the corruption that was going on in the Nation of Islam. Before we began the meeting, the brother reached down in his home and poured out some alcohol. I'll just say it like that. And he said, this is for the brothers who were not there. I thought he was joking. But he said, brother, this is when they started passing around that. And they offered me, I had came there with a bunch of bean pies, thinking it was just going to be one of those nights where we just going to, I don't drink coffee, but I would have some tea, have a slice of pie, and just sit, talk and enjoy this history. But they went on to tell me so many things. And brothers and sisters, it's unbelievable. They said, one brother said when they came out of prison, Captain Yusuf Shah, Captain Joseph X. Gravett, they had a place down in Times Square where he had some women. And so when you came out of prison, he would take you down there, and Malcolm supposedly knew about this, that they would bring you down there and just say, all right, brother, you've been locked up for the last 2 years, 4 years, 3 years. He says, so before you begin soldiering, get this out your system. So they had the women down there to service. And these are some of the crazy stories that these brothers told me. And it's so much more, brothers and sisters. But again, I don't have supporting documents, and I don't want to be charged with being a liar, so I'll just keep that in the back recess of my mind, brothers and sisters. Another individual told me that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did have a will. Not so much a will, but he had the direction where he wanted the Nation of Islam to go after he passed. And he did not want us to go into Orthodox Islam. How could it be New Islam when it was 1,400 years old? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I don't know if it was a video recording or just an audio recording, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did have a recording with the direction that he wanted the Nation of Islam to go. And I was told that Wallace D. Muhammad, I was told that Herbert Jabba Muhammad, I was told that they heard the tape. The tape disappeared and no one was able to hear the tape. But I believe that when Wallace D. Muhammad, in 1974, I was told that this tape was recorded. But I believe that Wallace D. Muhammad and them went to work, and they went to usurp the power of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad while he was still ailing but still among us. And so he came back, and he went around to temples. He went to New York. He went to Atlanta. He went out. He got the captain out in Los Angeles, Ali Rashid, to go with him, and he traveled with him. He got Abbas Rasul, the national secretary, to go with him. And they came, and they all came to undermine what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted for our Nation of Islam. I do agree with Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan.
The will of God. His passing is the will of God.
But it was the will of Almighty God alone.
Is the will of God.
Sometimes emotions, you start to think that Why didn't these ministers stand up and rebuke Wallace D. Muhammad? There are some now, many years later, said that they never followed Wallace a day in their life. I was there for 3.5 to near 4 years with Wallace D. Muhammad. I followed it. I was in his mosque when they took out the chairs. I was in his mosque when he stripped off our FOI uniform. I was there when he created the New Earth Team, the BAP, the Black Arrest Pioneer Patrol. I was there when he was said they wanted to remove all racial images that was portrait to divine. I was there when they changed the blackboard and put the Remake the World up. I was there when they began to change and to reduce the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not from the messenger of God, but they began to institute Prophet Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, as the last and the seal of the prophets. I was there when they said that Master Farad Muhammad was Dr. Farad. You don't remember all that. Then they said he was a witch doctor. I was there when they disrespected and had that patriotism day parade. I was there when he lifted the flag and said that he was going to fight for America. If America went to war with foreign countries, he would fight on the hands of America. I was there when the man went to the penitentiary and told them that damnable lie that his father used to eat pork. Why all of these things, I was there following Wallace D. Muhammad, out of my damn mind for following Wallace D. Muhammad. But I did not speak on so many things. I spoke bitterness toward Wallace D. Muhammad because I didn't like him. I felt that he was a troublemaker. He never really stayed in the Nation of Islam. He used it for his personal and private gains. So he got money, and plenty of money, while he was in the Nation of Islam. He was taken care and well taken care when he was in the Nation of Islam. But he said that, oh, money didn't matter to him. He said he went out there, he used to wash windows for 10 cents a window. He said he had it hard. He said he changed his name to Delaney because he wanted to disassociate himself from his Nation of Islam and his father's teachings. But here the man who still was receiving funds to take care of his family from Sister Clara Muhammad, and would send money to his wife at the time, Sister Shirley. Brothers and sisters, you all don't know this history. I'm speaking of this, and so many of you said they're so grateful that the Imam brought us and taught us true Islam. You're so grateful that the Imam showed us the Prophet, Sunnah, Prophet Muhammad. You're so happy with all of these things. But brothers and sisters, I don't care what you say, brothers and sisters, we must tell the truth. We must tell the truth. I was there when Minister Farrakhan, after he was removed, and Minister Jeremiah Shabazz became the minister replacing him. That happened in June 29th, 1975, when Wallace D. Muhammad, with his artificial humanism, came to Madison Square Garden. I was there, brothers and sisters. I assisted Brother Herbert Muhammad Jr. selling a portrait of Master Farad Muhammad for $10. I was there, brothers and sisters. I heard what Wallace D. Muhammad said. I heard what Jesse Jackson said. I heard what all of those who were there at Madison Square Garden. But Minister Farrakhan said something that boggled my mind. After Wallace Muhammad, in January the 18th of 1975, just a few weeks before they announced the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they said, think 5 times before you say something. Minister Farrakhan, 5 weeks before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was pronounced that he had expired, you know that Wallace D. Muhammad came to our fruit class, FOI class, the military name given to the training of men who belong to Islam in North America. You know that Minister Farrakhan, that Wallace D. Muhammad said on that day that it's going to pass, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's going to pass, but it's going to be the same program. And he said that Minister Farrakhan would accept that, he could keep his post as national spokesman, as national representative. He said, but if he goes against that direction, he said, I will sit him down. And if 10,000 of us didn't like it, we would just have to get used to him. The man was making his move. And he even said back, he said, I know the National Secretary, they're looking at me, they ain't never heard me say this before. This man, oh, I could just go on and on and on, but this is history, brothers and sisters. So when you all now, who are followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under Minister Louis Farrakhan, when you say you accept Imam Warif D. Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan never fully left Wallace D. Muhammad. He had an oath, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Jr., Elijah Muhammad Jr.'s son, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son, Elijah Muhammad Jr. told me that he was in the room when Minister Farrakhan, when Imam Siraj, when they all said that they were going to follow Imam W.D. Muhammad and going to bring the community together. Brothers and sisters, if you look at it, Wallace D. Muhammad said, remake the world. Minister Farrakhan said, let us change the world. Wallace D. Muhammad said that at 7351 South Stony Island, he instituted Juma in that place, which was Muhammad's Holy Temple of Islam #2. Minister Farrakhan also instituted Juma in Muhammad's Temple of Islam #2, though he renamed it Mosque Miriam. Why he renamed it Mosque Miriam? Who gave him the authority to change it? If everything else was returned back to Muhammad's Mosque #3, #4, 5, 6, 7 on, but you changed Mosque #2, you made it your personality. And I say this to you, and I'm not being smart, brothers and sisters. Why wasn't it returned to Muhammad's Mosque #2? You have to ask yourself these questions, brothers and sisters. I just don't understand how so many of you could listen. And like I said, I don't have an axe to grind with Minister Farrakhan in that direction, but I will speak up. I know that I'm a nobody. I know that nobody pays me any attention. I know that some of you just sit on the internet or on the YouTube or wherever you may view this and say, you know, this brother's out of his mind. This brother, he's crazy as hell. You should just leave him alone. When you see somebody crazy, walk away from him. That's what you say. But you said the same thing about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. After W.D. Farad, Master Farad Muhammad, his teacher, left, some of you said, why should we listen to Elijah? This man is not educated. This man have a whole lot of misspelled words. This man have the poorest secretaries going around, didn't know how to properly form letters or anything. Why should we follow Elijah? But what was in Elijah's heart? What was in his heart? Remember, dedication over education. I'll take a dedicated man over an educated man. But Prophet Muhammad said that one learned man is harder on the devil than 1,000 ignorant worshipers. I didn't say I was an ignorant worshiper. I said that dedication sometimes trumps education, because you'd rather have a man who's dedicated that will walk with you in the cool of the night as well as the hot sunny days when hard trials are coming and forth around you. You'd rather have a dedicated man. I am dedicated to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. For 47 years, he has not been around us. For 47 years, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have moved on. And wherever Allah have him, and we say peace and blessings of Allah forever be upon the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I am loyal to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I believe that Allah placed me on this earth for I would be one who would help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But it started with desire. I have a desire to help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Ever since I was a young child, I wanted to help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And now, brothers and sisters, my work testifies of it. You say I walked away from it. You said you were moving on. You said you was done with this. Brothers and sisters, my heart was broken. I had a brother who had died of cancer. I had another brother who was battling cancer. I had an uncle who died during that period. I'm telling you what happened during the time when I did the moving on. I was depressed. I was upset. I didn't love seeing my mother suffer, watching her baby, her son, die. It was a very painful period in my life, and yet I was being physically attacked, and yet I was being told a whole lot of things. You don't know what was going on in my life personally at the time. I was suffering, and I just said if Master Farad Muhammad came in there, I wouldn't know who he was. I was telling the truth, brothers and sisters. You ain't never seen Master Farad Muhammad. Some of you who worship Jesus Christ, you weren't here around when Jesus was around, yet you say he coming back. How the hell would you know what he looked like? Huh? How would you know what he talked about? You ain't never heard a voice of Jesus, but you say you're waiting for Jesus to come. You say he's coming back in the clouds of heaven. You talk all of these things. So I presented a case before you. I was asking the question. When I said Master Farad Muhammad was more of a mystery to me, you know, I'm starting to see him as a mystery God, because I didn't understand. But you attacked me and said I was a hypocrite. Some of you said that, I don't want to name your names, who cussed me out over the phone, who slammed the phone down on me, who wouldn't give me the greetings, how I was a bus operator and how individuals came after me. Oh, brothers, you don't know what I went through. But brothers and sisters, again, I am not here looking for any sympathy. I believe There are Muslims who believe that Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the last messenger of God. There are Muslims who spending the rest of their life in prison for certain crimes that they did, defending what they believe to be the truth of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. There's some in jail who's robbed. There's some in jail who stole. There's some in jail who did all sorts of un-Islamic things, but they thought that if they got the money and delivered it to the Nation of Islam, we would help further the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to receive his hospital. We would help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to open up more. We would help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to open up the hospital. We would help the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to further the teachings so the black man and woman who love to show and then tell. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew we were children. We had to show them that we were successful. So we opened up an information center there in Chicago. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad got a bank for us, brothers and sisters. He said, put your money and pool your money among yourself. Brother, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a blueprint, but he had so many thieves and robbers robbing him from the farmland, robbing him from so many avenues. So he was out there doing the best job that he knew, brothers and sisters. Oh, brothers and sisters, I said it so many times that but I'm doing this, and as I said, it's been over a year now I'm working on this project, and I'm working on this project for a reason, brothers and sisters. I am just going to put this out, and when the word is given, when you hear what I have to say, brothers and sisters, again, you can accept this, you can reject it. I'll pray Allah that you would save it, download it, and just look at it and review it every 4 or 5 years. If I'm going off the planet, you'll see, brothers and sisters, this is a man who gave his life for what he believed in, brothers and sisters. I am not a brother who ever received a stimulus check. I've never received any contracts, brothers. I never did it, was paid for no security job. I helped to secure Brother Khalid Muhammad. I helped to secure Brother Eric Muhammad. I worked with Brother Abdul Kareem Muhammad. I worked with Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. I did what I believed to be the truth to help in this cause. I was not paid to do any of that, brothers and sisters. I worked my behind off to get whatever Allah has blessed me with. And I'm grateful to Almighty God Allah that He gave me the physical health and gave me the mind to work. I thank Almighty God Allah for my parents. I thank Almighty God Allah for my uncles. My family is not a lazy family. My family, everybody worked, and that's the way it is. So brothers and sisters, I was just one like the family. I got up as soon as I could barely walk. I was out there. I was hustling, selling candy, selling bean pies, working, doing whatever I could to bring in money. When I was in high school, I had a locker right there in the lobby, near the lobby at John Brown High School. I was selling, it was the candy store. You came and you got your Fifth Avenue from me. You got your Babe Ruth from me. You was able to get whatever candy I was selling to bring in money, brothers and sisters. You don't know what I did because I wanted to be a successful man. I didn't want to be a poor man. I didn't like when I saw individuals waiting in the area where I grew up, waiting for them to come through the block and give out a block of cheese or a can of peanut butter. I said, what the hell is this? No, I didn't want to do that. I said I'd never be on welfare. As long as God gave me health and strength, I can go out there and make something for myself. So I worked my behind off. I got so many jobs, brothers and sisters, overlapping. But here, Allah, who came in the person of Master W.D. Farad, He would bless me. And on my road of working, I got to work with people. Had no idea, just like as a little boy running up 105th Street there in East Elmhurst, running up 105th Street in Northern Boulevard where the temple was. Nobody ever paid me any attention, but I was able to listen. I was able to observe. I sat in my dad's barbershop and just observed when Muslims would come in the barbershop and saw how proud my father was that we would see him. He had such a beautiful smile when he would see him. Assalamu alaikum. And he, oh, brothers and sisters, I was privy to see all of that. I was privy to see my uncle, who was more serious, Uncle George. I was so privileged to be there as I was growing up to see these things, brothers and sisters. This is the honest to goodness truth. And so I took it to heart. Here I saw so many men and women who would come in and salute the National, pay their charity and sit down. I didn't know where my father was in the building, but every time I would hear his voice, he goes, "That's right. You better listen. You better listen. I would hear my dad's voice, and I knew he was around somewhere, and it just made me proud to be around. I always used to beg him to take me to the temple. My father would sometimes I thought he was trying to sneak out. And I said, Daddy, could I go? And he would say no. So he would say, if you're dressed by the time I pulled, we had the car parked in the backyard, but he had to come down the driveway. He would say, if you were dressed by the time I get out of here. So sometimes I would just rush and get dressed and run out the front door to catch him when he came out, and I would go to the temple. I always wanted to be around this. I felt that it was like gasoline putting in the tank. I just felt that this is what I need to survive. I loved hearing it. And yes, what was the teachings back then? 90% of it was Yakub's history. 90% of it was the white man is the devil. 90% of it was just, hurry, come on and join the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This was the teachings, but I loved it, and I heard it over and over and over again. It drilled in my head, brothers and sisters. You have no idea what it did to me. And I'm not saying that I was brainwashed, because I accepted it, I loved it, and wanted more of it. I could never get enough of it. I went home. I used to listen to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad record album. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't speak that clearly, but I would listen to him. And I would just say, look at him, he's struggling, he's coughing, he's trying to deliver. I wanted to be a helper for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You, brothers and sisters, because I know many of you, when you view my life story and portions of it, you're going to say, if I catch that Negro, what I'm going to do. Talking about the leader, y'all speaking about Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. You didn't love Minister Farrakhan like I love Minister Farrakhan. My love, there's different degrees of love, brothers and sisters. Some of you love him because it makes you look important. Some of you love him because you have a position, so you appear to be strong. But brothers and sisters, I am ostracized. I am outside the box. I am one who is speaking what I believe to be the truth. And though I have some brothers who I believe are my friends in the Nation of Islam, I don't have a friend. Malcolm used to say, friends and enemies. I know that I have enemies. I know there are those who want to take my life. I know there's some who want to do physical harm to me. Why? Because I'm speaking what it is, the truth. You don't mind if Fred Hawthorne, you don't mind if others can come before the public and say it, and you don't do a damn thing. But when this truth comes to you, some of you just can't take it. Some of you want to now say very vile things about me. Say, brother, just stay away from that brother. That brother's poison. But brothers and sisters, I've already quarantined myself from you. I am just a brother who pretty much, as I'm here alone, doing whatever I have to do. But I'm telling this story, packing this stuff up. And brothers and sisters, as I said, you may never hear from me again. I'm not going to be a part of Who Killed Malcolm if there is another season. I'm not going to be a part of any interviews. You're not going to get some of the information that I have. I'm done with this, brothers and sisters, and I'm done with it for a very good reason. Because I'm not one, this is my swan song. I am not one who's just going to stand before you and keep telling you that, oh, brothers and sisters, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's the last messenger, he's the greatest messenger. I tried to tell you this from a time I was a teenager delivering fish to you. When you used to come into my store, I had a store, and I used to play Minister Louis Farrakhan tapes. I had the speaker sometimes out front. I used to play Minister Louis Farrakhan tapes. This is the honest goodness truth. Those weekly broadcasts, they were Respect for Life series that happened prior to 1975. I used to play them. I used to play all of those subjects, whatever tapes that I had. Sometimes there were Muslim followers who would come by. I mentioned Brother Lieutenant Anthony 38X. Y'all know him as Abdullah. He is the husband of Sister Karima, the former captain of New York City. But brother used to come by the shop on a regular basis. He would come and collect the Muhammad Speaks money from us. He would come and just watch us. And sometimes he would come on his motorcycle, and him and a brother named Ali and others used to visit us. We had Pure Food, another restaurant down the street. I believe they used to stop in there as well. That was Brother Ronald and them. Brother Mitchell, who was a plumber. You know him now. He's the president or resident imam of 116th Street, Pasha. I can tell you so many stories, brothers and sisters, but I am that brother, Shabazz, who have a history. And I'm telling you my history, whether you accept it or not. When I had a case against the United States Postal Service, I hired C. Vernon Mason. Yes, that same attorney, C. Vernon Mason, to represent me in my case against the United States Postal Service. I was privy to see my OPF. OPF is your official personnel folder. I was privy to see that. And what I found amazing in it was the stamp of the FBI, who said that I was cleared to be employed, cleared to be hired. And I wondered, was they doing a background search because my name was Shabazz, or was they doing was this a standard procedure that they did with everybody? I have not seen anybody else OPF, but I know for a fact that mine had a stamp for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Why am I saying this to you, brothers and sisters? Because the FBI got files on every one of us, brothers and sisters. You all who think that John Ali was an FBI cohort, you are so foolish, brothers and sisters. John Ali was very public with what he said. He told me, and I may play the tape, about all of this with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. John Ali said this, brothers and sisters. He applied for many, his last name was Simmons. He applied for so many positions, and he did get an interview with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and they said they would retain his application for further employment. He was educated. And brothers and sisters, he grew up in Philadelphia, the same area that brother Jeremiah Pugh or Jeremiah Shabazz was. They were friends, and he told me how Jeremiah had loved the ladies when he was small, and how Jeremiah, which I have Jeremiah FBI files also, and we may share some of that also, brothers. But I did not know the Black Mafia. I had no knowledge of that. First time I know they were saying that they were responsible for the murder of those individuals in Washington, D.C. In 1973. I believe it was January the 18th also. But there was so much that they said, but I didn't know that, Jeremiah. I didn't have a television show, but I did get to question Minister Jeremiah. I was with him. I was with him when he was with Minister John Muhammad, who was the blood brother of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was there at the Blue Hill Horizon. Lieutenant Norton, who was Aziz Mudair, was there. Captain Yusuf Shah was there. There were so many individuals that was there. And I was there, brothers and sisters. So there's so much that you all should understand. When that film, the Malcolm X movie, came out, the one that Spike Lee did that featured Denzel Washington, there was a special screening at the Apollo Theater. I sat with Brother Minister Linwood X, Abdul Kareem Muhammad, and Minister Jeremiah Shabazz. We all sat together there at the Apollo Theater watching that movie, which was over 3 hours. So many of you don't know this. This is some of the history, brothers and sisters. Whether you believe it or believe it not, that's up to you. I have no alternative reason to lie. I wouldn't come before you and waste your time with lies. I'm telling you what's in my heart to say. Whether you accept it or you reject it, that's up to you, brothers and sisters. But I'm going to speak what I believe to be the truth. And I believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is God's last messenger. I believe the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the one that God had raised among us to teach the lost foundation of Islam. So, brothers and sisters, I'm going to discontinue my talk this morning, and we'll come back with something else in a little while. But all praises are due to Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I thank Almighty God Allah over and over again for his messenger, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. We close out in prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praises are due to Allah, the Beneficent, the most merciful Savior, sole Master of this day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, and thine aid we seek. O Allah, guide us along the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed thy favors, and not the path of whom thy wrath has been brought down, nor of those who have gone astray. Amen. All right, brother.